I never imagined a ride in the wrong car could lead to an unbelievable love story. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. The moment I stumbled into that stranger's vehicle felt like stepping into quicksand. The air was thick with tension. My heart raced, pounding in my chest like a drum echoing my panic. It all started as a mundane routine, waiting for my daily commute. But today was different. I glanced around, feeling a strange shiver run down my spine. The rain fell in heavy sheets, obscuring the world outside. Then, with a squelching sound, a sleek black car pulled up. It was so shiny it reflected the streetlights like a mirror. My breath hitched. The driver looked at me, a cocky grin on his face, sparkling blue eyes that seemed to hold secrets. "Need a ride?" he called, his voice smooth like warm honey. My instincts screamed to say no, to find another way. But one look at that inviting smile and I was drawn in. Maybe it was desperation or just a reckless desire for adventure. Either way, I slid into the seat beside him, the smell of leather mingling with a hint of something citrus-like, perhaps. I barely caught his name, something like Jax, but it didn't matter. My thoughts were swirling in his wake as we sped down streets that blurred by like memories forgotten. I felt the thrill of the unknown wrap around me. But there was more at play than just a joyride. The way he held the steering wheel manifested confidence, a sort of magnetic energy that made my heart flutter. Conversation flowed like the rain against the windshield, light and playful, but with an undercurrent of mystery that sent shivers down my spine. He spoke of places I'd never been, worlds I'd only dreamed of. I watched his hands slightly trembling at points, revealing a depth of emotion beneath that cool exterior. Puzzle I wanted to solve. Suddenly, the car screeched to a halt. It felt as if time froze. My breath caught. A harsh, rumbling growl erupted from the darkness. I turned to see a shadow looming from the back seat. My heart dropped. The air felt electric, charged with something I couldn't quite grasp. Who was that? What was happening? Jax's expression shifted, fear slicing through his playful demeanor. He turned to me, eyes wide. "Run," he said, barely more than a whisper. The sense of danger wrapped itself around us like barbed wire, sharp and unforgiving. I trembled, unsure of what to do, my heart pounding in my ears. Where were we? Who were we running from? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Panic clung to the air like the rain that battered the windshield. My body felt heavy as fear seeped into my bones, but Jax's command hung in the air, sharp and urgent. I gazed into his wide eyes, an ocean of emotions swirling through them: fear, regret, and an unsettling determination. A part of me was frozen, anchored by disbelief and confusion, but another part felt a strange urgency to trust him, to leap into the unknown. As I glanced back, that shadow loomed larger, dark and ominous. It was more than just a figure. It was an embodiment of every worry I'd ever carried, every fear that loomed over my everyday life. I inhaled sharply, the acrid scent of danger mixing with the intoxicating aroma of hope that Jax had unwittingly ignited within me. "Run," he said again, firmer this time, his voice cutting through the haze. I didn't wait for a second invitation. I flung open the door and stumbled onto the slick pavement. My heart raced as the rain drummed relentlessly on my skin. Jax was beside me in an instant, the warmth of his presence grounding me even as chaos spun around us. We dashed down an alleyway, heartbeats synchronized in frantic rhythm. I could feel his energy beside me, urging me forward, breaking the grip of fear that sought to tether me to the car. We took a hard right and ducked behind a dumpster, breathless and soaked to the skin. Everything felt surreal, the rain pouring, adrenaline coursing through my veins, the closeness of someone who was a stranger just moments before. What was that? I managed to gasp, my voice trembling as I clutched my wet hair, attempting to shove it behind my ear. Jax's face was shadowed, his blue eyes shimmering with something that resembled both fear and excitement. "I don't know, but we need to get out of here fast. They're looking for me." There was a vulnerability in his voice that struck me deeply. This wasn't just a thrill-seeking joyride. It was a fight for survival. Looking for you? My brows knitted together in confusion, and I wanted to retreat to the safety of ignorance. Who are they? Just people I owe, he replied, running an anxious hand through his hair. It was a casual gesture, but there was desperation etched in every line of his face. People you owe? I echoed, my mind racing with questions I didn't have the courage to voice. But even through my confusion, I couldn't help feeling a sense of connection to him, a leaf caught in the same storm. This reckless venture had somehow entwined our fates. Before he could respond, a loud shout broke through the rain. I froze as shadows darted past the mouth of the alley, the threat of pursuit all too real. Jax's gaze met mine, and in that moment, a fragile understanding blossomed. We were two souls thrust together by fate, navigating darkness we didn't fully comprehend. He glanced down the alley, urgency tightening around him. We need to move. There's an old hideout nearby. We can plan from there. I nodded, trepidation curling in my stomach, but I was willing to trust him. With a swift glance behind us, we took off again, weaving through narrow pathways, my heart echoing the intensity of the moment. Emerging onto a quieter street, we found ourselves in front of a dilapidated building, its door barely hanging on its hinges. Jax pushed it open, and it creaked ominously like a warning. However, the warmth inside contrasted sharply with the rain-soaked chill outside. I slid inside, instinctively pressing my back to the wall. It was dim, the air thick and musty, yet held a sense of sanctuary. Jax stepped in behind me, glancing over his shoulder as if expecting to see shadows dance in the light. Why are they after you? I asked again, unable to hold back the curiosity burning in my chest. He sighed, rubbing the back of his neck, his vulnerability etched deeper into his features. I got mixed up with the wrong crowd. They think I stole something from them, something important. What? What did you take? I pressed, the question slipping out before I could think it through. Instead of answering, a glimmer of uncertainty crossed his face. I can't tell. You? Not yet. Complicated. Frustration tightened my chest. Trust was a fragile thing, especially in this whirlwind. But just as accusations began to scrape the edges of my mind, he stepped closer, closing the distance between us. But I promise I'm not who you think I am. I just need a little time to explain. In that moment, as the truth hung pregnant in the air, I felt torn, a wild tug-of-war between my burgeoning feelings for him and the gnawing fear of the unknown. My heart whispered to trust him, but the shadows of danger loomed closer. Suddenly, the door creaked ominously behind us, pulling my racing thoughts back to the present. I turned, my blood running cold as the sound of footsteps approached, heavy and deliberate. Jax, I whispered, panic seizing me once more. Without waiting for a response, Jax's hand found mine, squeezing tightly as if to convey that we weren't alone in this chaos. But as I glanced back at the doorway, I was met with an unfamiliar figure stepping into the light, their identity obscured by darkness. Hello, Jax, the figure smirked, a chilling recognition igniting my fear. I've been looking for you. Everything I knew shattered in that moment, leaving me gasping in the storm of emotions. My heart raced in terror and anticipation, and my mind spun wildly at the revelation that lay ahead. The figure took a step forward, the dim light revealing a sharp jawline and glinting eyes that seemed to relish the moment. I felt Jax's grip on my hand tighten, the warmth of his skin contrasting with the icy shiver creeping up my spine. Jax, the newcomer continued, voice dripping with mockery. I see you brought a friend. How sweet. His gaze flicked towards me, and for a heartbeat, I felt as if he were peeling back my layers, exposing my fears and vulnerabilities to him. Get lost, Cole, Jax hissed, his expression shifting from confusion to a fierce protectiveness that ignited a flicker of hope within me. You aren't supposed to be here. Cole laughed, a sound both dark and inviting, like the promise of warmth in a winter storm. I can't help it if the storms align. You thought you could run away from me? You owe me, Jax, and I'm tired of waiting. The accusation hung heavy in the air, thickening with every word. It felt as though the walls of the old building echoed with Jax's past, a history he was trying desperately to outrun. Something cold and ominous pooled in my stomach, the realization that we were not just playing games. We were caught in the grips of a dangerous web woven by choices that led us here. No one owes you anything. I found my voice, surprising even myself. There was a sudden surge of defiance rising up, fueled by the need to protect Jax. I stepped forward, tilting my chin up to meet Cole's gaze, searching for something human in the depths of his dark eyes. "You don't need to do this. Just let him go." Cole's smile widened, revealing more teeth than kindness. "Oh, it's cute that you think you can save him. Jax made his choices. He should face the consequences." "Consequences?" Jax repeated, anger flush on his cheeks. "You know nothing about consequences, Cole. You're just a coward hiding behind threats." A surge of energy crackled between us, Jax's determination and my growing conviction. I could sense that this confrontation was merely the beginning, a pinprick in a much larger tapestry of chaos that enveloped Jax's world. Cole stepped aside, revealing shadows lurking behind him, a couple of burly figures, their bodies blocking the narrow path to escape. Despair wrapped around me, squeezing tight. I glanced at Jax. The storm in his eyes had hardened into resolve, yet there was a flicker of something else. Fear? Regret? "I'll handle this," Jax said, not looking at me but addressing the threat like a fearless knight preparing to battle. "No." Something inside me screamed against the impulse to let him confront this alone. Even though clarity washed over me, I was tethered to him now, part of this madness whether I liked it or not. But I was also just a bystander in a game far more dangerous than I could comprehend. "Jax," I pleaded, taking an anxious step toward him. "Please let us just go. We can find another way." His eyes flicked toward me, and in that fleeting second we connected, two souls amidst the chaos. Then, as if deciding some unspeakable truth, he took a deep breath, channeling the strength buried within him. "Listen, Cole. I don't have what you want. Just let her go," Jax said, voice steady, but I could hear the underlying tremor of urgency. That's when the first punch landed, a brutal thud that echoed off the walls. Noise erupted like a storm, the air thickening with adrenaline and fear. I was acutely aware of every sound, the rasp of breath, the crack of knuckles, and the gut-churning realization that this might be the moment everything changed. Before I had time to react, I darted toward the chaos, every instinct screaming that I couldn't stay back while Jax fought against those who wanted him captured. Adrenaline propelled me forward, heart racing as I weaved through the unfolding violence. But just as I reached him, I was yanked back, an iron grip seizing my arm like a clamp. I spun around to see a face I recognized, Mom. Her frantic eyes were wide with horror, confusion, and a painful familiarity, as if we'd both stumbled upon something we'd been unwilling to face. "Breathe," she urged softly, even as pain and panic radiated through her words. "You shouldn't be here." "Mama, I can't leave him," I insisted. "I can't just stand by. Now is not the time." She shot back, desperation threading her tone. "You don't understand what's at stake. You need to trust me." Trust. That thin strand that had woven through my life and brought me to this moment felt frayed at the edges. I glanced back at Jax, now grappling with Cole, a swirl of anger, fear, and unshakable resolve. This was not just about survival. It was about choices, freedom, and the unfathomable consequences they entailed. "Please," I whispered to my mother, "don't make me leave him." But the sudden intensity of the conflict exploded around us, and instinct took over. I broke free from her grasp, darting towards the fray once more, determined to protect the boy who had become my unexpected ally in this dark moment. As I reached them, the world erupted around me, a riot of sounds, shadows, and emotions. In those fragmented moments, the last thing I saw was Jax's eyes locked onto mine, filled with a raw intensity that spoke volumes amid the chaos. Just when it felt like everything would be swallowed by the storm, a gunshot rang out, piercing through like a knife and freezing time itself. My heart stopped, horror flooding every corner of my being. As if in slow motion, I turned to see Jax's face contorted in shock and disbelief. "Oh no," was all I managed to whisper as darkness threatened to take over, and the reality of what I feared most consumed me whole. The sound of the gunshot resonated in my ears, a heart-stopping echo that carved the space between moments. Time seemed to fracture into shards of reality, where everything slowed, and all that mattered was the expanse of Jax's gaze. My breath hitched, caught somewhere deep in my throat as adrenaline surged through me, but with it came a crippling wave of dread. I rushed forward, my body acting against the clench of fear tightening around my heart. The chaos morphed into a blurry frenzy as I searched for the source of that terrible sound, understanding clawing at my consciousness someone had crossed the line, and nothing would remain untouched. Zeroing in on Jax, my fingers grazed the rough fabric of his shirt. Jax, are you okay? The urgency was palpable, a desperate plea to draw him from the fringes of whatever nightmare had begun to unfold. He staggered slightly, his expression a tumult of pain and concern. Get back, he rasped, the command fused with an almost primal ferocity. In his eyes I saw fear, a reflection of my own, sharp and piercing. He did not want to lose me, not like this, not now. But the reality of our surroundings began to seep in. Shadows distorted into shapes, the scent of sweat and fear mingling in the air. Cole's laughter, dark and relentless, sliced through the tension. This is what happens when you refuse to play by the rules, Jax, he taunted, brimming with a twisted sense of victory. Fighting through the haze of panic, I noticed Jax's stance, his frame squared, muscles taut with the undeniable readiness of a man prepared to protect what was dear to him. The burly figures reached for him, their lethargy nearly comical compared to the storm of emotions raging within me. They were mere distractions against the tempest of Cole, who radiated a twisted charisma, a puppeteer controlling the strings. Leave him alone, I shouted, my voice rising against the cacophony. I felt Jax's grip lock around my wrist, his expression pleading. Get out of here now. But even amidst his warning, my feet felt rooted to the ground, defying the instinct to flee. And then I remembered my mother, the longing for her presence sending panic lurching through my veins. Where was she? The last moments before my consciousness had fractured played back like a movie reel, her wild eyes, her breathless words urging me to trust her. Doubts twisted and turned like a tempest inside me, splintering my faith in everything I had known. Taking a step back, I felt the searing hostility swirling around us. But amid it all, I glimpsed a flicker of kindness from one of the burly figures, a man who appeared unsure, almost reluctant to follow the chaotic orders projected by Cole. He hesitated, a brief glimmer of compassion that seemed out of place in this violent kaleidoscope. Hey, I shouted, focusing my energy on him, desperate to pierce through the murky confusion. You don't have to do this. Can't you see he's not your enemy? For a fleeting moment our eyes locked, and I thought I felt the weight of his hesitation melting, as if he was torn between obligation and morality. But before anything could ignite within him, a sharp command from Cole jerked him back to allegiance. Do your job or suffer the consequences. A twitch of anger surfaced in me, weaponized against the fear that threatened to steal my voice. You're just following orders, I yelled, weaving my way toward that moment of doubt shining through the chaos. You're not a part of this. You can choose to help. Enough. Cole's command shattered the fragile connection, and he lunged forward, propelling himself towards Jax, forcing me to retreat once more. In the ensuing scuffle, I felt the world race around us, a dizzying whirl of bodies colliding, a chaos composed of shattered loyalties and forgotten promises. Just when I thought hope was lost, I heard a loud cracking noise, startlingly close, as a figure materialized from the shadows, the unmistakable form of my mother. Get back, she shouted with an authority that somehow made the air flicker. I watched as she moved with a fierce determination, one arm raised to shield me, and with the other she retrieved something from her pocket. A small glint of metal caught the dim light, an object that burned with the potential of salvation. Mom, no! I cried, panic shooting through me like electricity. I ran towards her, but time had ceased to wait on compassion. I reached her just as Cole turned, his attention now gravitating towards her, a predator sensing a fresh target. The crack of another gunshot rang out, far closer now. The glint of metal flew from her hand, skimming through the air, striking true. A deafening silence fell in its wake, cold and sterile, as we all turned to see Cole collapse to the ground, his laughter extinguished, cut off just like that. But in the same heartbeat, my mother's face paled, a look of horror replacing the brave facade she had donned. Panic gripped my heart as she staggered back, a limpness seizing her form. I darted forward, catching her just in time as she hit the ground, the world falling into chaos once more around me. The muffled chaos of screaming and sirens formed an ominous chorus, the storm closing in, and I felt myself being pulled deeper into the tides of turmoil. My heart raced, the tempest of emotions swirling violently as I realized the depths of my situation. Amid footfalls and fading chatter, as the walls of this darkened chapter began to close in, The weight of uncertainty crushed the fragile tendrils of hope I had held onto as my fingers clutched her wrist, begging for a sign of consciousness. The weight of what had just transpired settled heavily on my chest, suffocating the light I had dared to chase. In that gut-wrenching moment, I knew this was only the beginning. Every choice would shape the fabric of our fates, intertwining ours with those who had threatened to tear us apart. And just before everything dissolved into the shadows, I caught a fleeting glimpse of something at the edge of my vision, a figure lurking in the shadows, watching, waiting. My heart dropped, realization striking hard. This was not just about Jax or even my mother. This was about something far bigger and much darker than I had ever imagined. And we had barely begun to unravel its mysteries. The sirens wailed like banshees, filling the night with an urgent dread that fought against the fragile peace I craved. I cradled my mother's head in my lap, the world spinning around us while dread ascended like a vulture circling its prey. Each blink was a conscious effort, grounding me, but nothing could quiet the tremor in my chest, intensifying with each passing moment. "Mom, please," I whispered, my voice choking on the terror that lodged itself within my throat. I could feel Jax hovering nearby, his presence a grounding force against the chaos. His hand pressed against my back, the warmth both reassuring and terrifying, promising that he would not let go. But as the blaring horns neared, all I could think about was the stillness in the air, heavy with unfinished conversations and lingering fears. Memories of happier times came rushing back, the kitchen light flooding our home as laughter twinkled in the corners, and I felt a knot in my throat tight enough to strangle the rising tide of desperation. "Stay with me," I urged, pushing back the panic. "You're the strongest person I know." I could feel Jax's breath quickening, his concern for both of us palpable. Her eyes fluttered open, the storm within them fighting to break through the haze of unconsciousness. Is it over?" she murmured, her words a soft echo of the chaos that surrounded us. "Yes, it's over," I reassured her, though doubt curled like smoke in my mind. "We're going to be okay." But my mother wasn't listening. Her gaze drifted past me, landing on Jax. You brought him back," she mumbled, the words a bare whisper. I could feel the weight of her meaning as she struggled to piece together fragmented memories. All the while, the fear gnawed at me. Had she seen too much? Would she connect our pasts, and worse, the sinister threads reaching through our lives? Jax knelt beside us, his expression a blend of anxiety and determination. "We need to get her to a hospital," he said urgently, but I could barely hear him over the tumult in my head. "Not yet," my mother managed, shaking her head weakly. "We need to talk." The incredulity leapt through me like wildfire. In a moment that felt frantic and eternal, reality was already fraying at the edges. People slowly began to gather, drawn by the chaos. I could hear hushed whispers and tight questions, but none of it mattered. I locked my gaze on my mother, gripping her hand tighter. "Mom, please just hold on." After what felt like an eternity, the sirens pulled up, and paramedics rushed out with an urgency that both soothed and unsettled me. They flanked my mother like guardians charged with saving her from the chaos swirling around us. While one began checking her vitals, my eyes darted around, searching for anything that could anchor me in this storm. But Jax's presence remained the one constant. "I'll stay with you," he promised quietly, and in that moment, the world unraveled a little less. His loyalty was a lifeline tethering me through this emotional chaos, and strangely, a flicker of something deeper simmered beneath the surface as they loaded my mother onto a stretcher. A paramedic leaned in, voice low and steady. "We're gonna take good care of her. You stay close." With every step towards the ambulance, an unfathomable rush of vulnerability traversed through me. The fragile threads of hope soothing my cracked resolve. In the bed of the ambulance, I reached for my mother's hand again, squeezing it tightly. "I love you, Mom. Please don't leave." "I never would," she promised, voice steadying. "But there's still so much to uncover." I felt a tremor at those words, recognition in her eyes that hinted at secrets long buried, echoes of danger at our doorstep. The doors to the ambulance slammed shut, sealing us away from the chaos outside. Jax leaned in, his voice a hushed murmur. "You think she knows? About everything?" "I don't know," I replied, swallowing hard, a mix of fear and curiosity flooding my veins. What if my mother had been more involved than we realized? What if her schemes had led to this dangerous unfolding? But it feels like something's broken wide open. As the ambulance jolted to life, my heartbeat matched its chaotic rhythm. Jax's hand found mine warm and supportive. The warmth of his touch reminded me that even in this darkness, light could still seep through. Yet, just as relief began settling in, my phone buzzed in my pocket, a sharp intrusion. I pulled it out, a chill creeping down my spine as I froze. The name shining on the screen was like a slap to my senses. Cole. I exchanged a horrified glance with Jax, the words swelling at the tip of my tongue. Do I answer? I couldn't mask the fear edging my voice. Don't, Jax warned, but tension crackled in the air between us. I hesitated, finger hovering over the screen, and then decided to hit the ignore button. But as the ambulance turned onto the main road, the same number lit up again, the eerie insistence a dark omen. Something deep within me knew this wasn't over. As my world spun outwards, I faced the enormity of what lay ahead. Cole wasn't finished. And now neither were we. The city lights blurred past the ambulance, streaks of color mingling with the tightening knot in my stomach. Each pulse of the sirens was a countdown, a reminder that time was slipping through my fingers while darkness loomed ahead. Jax's hand was still clasped around mine, grounding me against the tumult of anxiety, yet the weight of the uncertainty pressed heavily on my chest. What if she doesn't make it? I whispered, the fear barely contained behind my trembling lips. I hated myself for voicing it, but the thought had burrowed into my mind like a relentless parasite. I turned to Jax, searching his eyes for reassurance, but could only see the flicker of concern that mirrored my own. What if she knows something, Jax? Something we don't? We'll figure it out together, Jax said, though his words lacked certainty. No matter what happens. The sincerity in his tone was a balm for my frayed nerves, yet it only slightly eased the tempest of questions we were both too afraid to articulate. The ambulance pulled into the hospital parking lot with a screech, and the world outside erupted with a new cacophony of shouts and chaos. Paramedics flung the doors open, the glowing hospital sign illuminating the night with harsh fluorescent light. My mother was whisked away on a gurney, a whirlwind of scrubs blurring around her. I wanted to run after her, but Jax's hand tightened around mine, anchoring me as we were forced to follow from a distance. Wait here, he instructed softly, his voice a low murmur edged with urgency. But I can't, I'll go with her. I promise I won't leave your mom, he insisted, his grip soothing yet fervent. His cerulean eyes held mine for a moment longer than necessary, and in that flicker of intimacy, I felt a strange warmth, a reminder that amid the crushing dread, tiny embers of hope still managed to spark. That as Jax moved to follow the stretcher, I stumbled back into the starkness of the hospital waiting room, the sterile scent of antiseptic drowning out my lingering fears. I sank into a chair, each tick of the clock driving a fresh wave of panic through my veins. My phone buzzed again, another warning sign waving futilely in the back of my mind. Ignoring it hadn't silenced the unease, it had only aggravated it. Taking a deep breath, I glanced around the waiting room, catching snippets of conversations that danced around me, voicing fears and strange burdens we all bore within these walls. An elderly man with deep worry lines etched in his face fidgeted with his wristwatch, eyes darting toward the entrance as if a light at the end of the tunnel might flicker into existence. A mother cradled her little girl, soothing her with whispers that echoed my own fears. Desperation wrapped around me, squeezing tighter with each passing moment, and I needed a distraction, a reason to believe the world would right itself. I pulled out my phone, hesitated, and then hit call. It felt like a lifetime of dread as the phone rang and rang. I could almost feel the distance stealing away my resolve until finally, hello? Cole, I breathed, the sound of his voice sending an electric shiver down my spine. Why are you calling? I need to know what's going on. It's about my mom, I stammered, my heart racing with uncertainty. Unlike Jax's steadiness, Cole's voice crackled like paper, ready to ignite with alarm. Silence danced between us, a thickening tension, until he broke it with a soft sigh. You really don't know, do you? What are you talking about? My panic flared again, my body responding with a rush of adrenaline. I could feel all eyes in the waiting room fixate on me, their curiosity penetrating my defenses. But Cole's tone shifted, becoming more hesitant, vulnerable. There are things about your mom, things she hasn't told you. You need to understand the truth. What truth? My voice nearly trembled under the weight of my words. Suddenly, everything felt unreal, like I was standing on the precipice of a dark chasm. I can't explain everything over the phone, he finally said, and I could hear the tension in his voice. Just know that. You're not safe. There are people after her after you. What do you mean? I pressed, but before he could respond, an automatic, disembodied voice rang through the hospital, announcing that I was needed by the nurse. Shit, I gotta go. Cole, but the line went dead, leaving my heart slamming against my ribs, an unfinished note hanging in the air that morphed my fear into a bearable panic. I stood up, legs shaking beneath me as if the weight of his words threatened to pull me down. Jax emerged from the depths of the emergency area, face pale and strained. They're taking her for tests, he said, urgency painting his features. We should find a place to Jax, I interrupted, breathless, scrambling for the right words. Cole just called. He said there are people after us. After my mom. His eyes widened, the worry encompassing every line of his face. We need to find her now, he urged, urgency sounding every alarm inside me. Whatever it takes. In that moment, the waiting room morphed into a battlefield, a place of reckoning where both love's fragility and the haunting shadows of the past converged. I could sense that we stood on the brink of something monumental, both terrifying and thrilling, but the deep puddles of darkness below promised not to let us escape so easily. The stakes had never felt higher, and I feared it was too late to turn back, so we steeled ourselves for what lay ahead. A new sound echoed down the corridor, a sinister whisper that sent chills crawling over my skin. The last remnants of hope flickered once more, the dawning realization that we may very well be caught in the crosshairs of a storm we never anticipated. I gripped Jax's hand tighter, the warmth of our connection anchoring me in this whirlwind of uncertainty. All the while, it crossed my mind that perhaps I had never imagined a ride in the wrong car could lead to an unbelievable love story, or something far darker. But as the tension thickened, I wondered if I was ready to face the secrets that were finally coming to light, or if I would spiral into the abyss, losing everything I had fought so hard to hold on to. The air was electric with tension as Jax and I stepped into the abyss that lay ahead, the weight of uncertainty overshadowing our every breath. The sterile walls of the hospital felt like looming giants, pressing down on us as we moved toward the nurse's station. Each step reverberated with the invisible stakes dangling over our heads, and I could hear the rhythmic pounding of my heart in time with Jax's steady gait beside me. What if Cole's right? I whispered, casting a glance around our surroundings. Each face I encountered felt like a mask, hiding their own silent struggles. What are we going to do if let's focus on your mom first? He cut in. A firm yet gentle reminder that we couldn't afford to spiral into a whirlpool of fears just yet. His eyes reflected a resilience that I wanted to borrow. Surely if I could just channel some of his resolve, perhaps the gnawing doubt within me would quiet. As we neared the nurse's station, I tightened my grip around his hand, the warmth of his presence igniting a flickering hope. But that flicker dimmed as I caught sight of the clock on the wall, a relentless reminder that time was slipping through our fingers like grains of sand. Excuse me, I said, stepping up to the nurse behind the counter. She offered a brief smile, but it quickly evaporated when she noticed the urgency in my eyes. Can you tell us about my mom? Is she okay? My voice was a desperate plea, as if the very sound of it could summon good news. She's stable, the nurse replied, her tone softening, though urgency tinged her every word. They're still running tests. I'm afraid it might take a little while. Can we see her? Jax asked, his voice steadier than mine, but the tension in his posture betrayed his own apprehension. We'll let you know as soon as we can. The nurse glanced at her computer, tapping on the keys without looking up. Please wait in the waiting area until then. Wait. We can't just wait. I blurted out, frustration bubbling in my chest. I need to be with her. The nurse's eyes met mine with a mixture of sympathy and firmness, leaving me feeling powerless yet again. I turned away, disappointment slamming into my gut, and Jax pulled me close, his presence relieving some of the weight I felt pressing down on us. We can use this time, Dany. Call Cole back if you need to figure out what he meant, he suggested, encouraging without pushing. Feeling a renewed sense of determination, I pulled out my phone but hesitated. What if I uncovered something I wasn't ready for? What if this truth tore apart the fragile hope I was clinging to? But before I could make a decision, a sudden commotion erupted just beyond the waiting area, and curiosity drew us toward the sound. A hospital security officer was leading a disheveled man through the entrance, his clothing rumpled and a wild look in his eyes. Those around us pulled back slightly as he stumbled forward, Clutching a bloodied shirt, I felt a shiver crawl up my spine. The man looked familiar. A distant memory flickered in the back of my mind, someone from the shadows of my past. Someone who had always lingered just out of sight. The air thickened around us as his gaze scanned the room until it landed on me. "Dany!" he shouted, his voice a mixture of frantic desperation and eerie recognition. "You don't understand." Before he could finish, security blocked his path, but it was too late. The shock on his face flared my old fears back to life. This man, whoever he was, held a connection to my mother, a piece of the puzzle that had been missing for so long. "Get away from her." Jax stepped in front of me protectively, instincts firing as the atmosphere crackled around us. "Jax, wait. He might know something," I protested, conflicting emotions churning inside me. The man's eyes darted back to Jax, narrowing, but his voice quaked with urgency. "I didn't want any of this to happen. Your mother, there's so much you don't know." Before I could respond, the security guard pulled him back, demanding a reason for his presence. My heart raced. Could he really hold answers to the questions swirling in my mind? Just then, the unmistakable sound of an approaching medical team caught my attention, and I felt my heart skip a beat. "Is she okay?" I pleaded, fear clawing at my throat as I caught a glimpse of the gurney wheeling past us, shrouded in shadows. "Stay back!" A nurse barked at the gathering crowd, scrambling to block our view. And in that moment, reality morphed into a surreal nightmare as the man's voice erupted again, slicing through the fear swirling within me. "She's not safe," he cried, and the words hung in the air like a twisted omen, resonating far deeper than I could comprehend. With that, he disappeared from my sight, the security team escorting him away, leaving Jax and me caught in a web of uncertainty. The man's warning echoed continuously in my mind, spinning the threads of anxiety tighter around my chest. And just then the fluorescent lights flickered, and my phone buzzed again, cutting through the noise with a new message. Danger was nearer than I thought. I felt the ground shift under my feet as I looked to Jax, the fear written on both our faces as a new realization dawned upon us. As we stood there, consumed with dread, one chilling question pierced through the silence. What other truths lay hidden in the darkness, waiting to emerge into the light? The waiting area pulsed with confusion and fear, each heartbeat echoing like a drum in the sterile room. I could feel Jax's grip tightening around my fingers, but the warmth of his touch felt distant, interrupted by the anxiety of what lay ahead. The man's words echoed endlessly in my mind, twisting and turning like a vine that threatened to choke me. "She's not safe." What did that even mean? Jax glanced around, his eyes darting every few seconds, scanning for the security team or any sign of the mysterious man. "Dany, we need to step outside. Just for a moment." His voice was steady, a stark contrast to the turmoil bubbling within me. But stepping outside felt like stepping closer to the unknown. "What if something happens to my mom while we're gone?" I protested, my voice shaky. "Nothing is going to happen," Jax assured me, his gaze meeting mine with an intensity that made my heart flutter. "Even during this storm, we'll get a moment to breathe. We deserve that. And maybe we can find some answers." Reluctantly, I nodded, letting him lead me through the glass doors that opened onto the hospital's courtyard. Fresh air hit my face, a bittersweet reminder of the world outside, one filled with life while mine felt like it was crumbling. The sun cast flickering shadows across the pavement, but the light felt heavy, tainted by the weight of uncertainty. We found a bench and sat down, the mechanical buzz of an overhead fan cutting through the silence. Jax's thumb rubbed gentle circles on the back of my hand, a calming rhythm that didn't quite dispel my unease. "Tell me what you're thinking," he urged softly, his eyes searching mine for clarity. Could he be telling the truth? I murmured, still caught in the vortex of my own spiraling thoughts. "About my mom, about the danger?" Jax nodded, his expression shifting to concern as he leaned closer. "Dany, your mom might be in trouble, but we can't imagine the worst until we know what's going on. We need to find Cole and understand everything. And what if we don't like what we find?" The question slipped out, heavy with the weight of potential devastation. "Then we face it together." His resolve was unwavering, and for the briefest moment, it illuminated a small flicker of gratitude within me. Just his presence eased the burden, allowing me to breathe, to hope, even if just a little. Just as my thoughts began to settle, a melody broke the silence. It was a soft, melancholic tune. A young girl was playing the violin nearby, her notes cascading through the courtyard like a breeze, wrapping around us with an unexpected warmth. I closed my eyes, letting the music wash over me, imagining that whatever struggle lay ahead could be softened by notes of grace. But that fragile moment shattered when my phone buzzed again. Hesitantly, I reached for it, my stomach twisting as I saw Cole's name flash across the screen. I answered without waiting for Jax, anxiety rushing in. "Cole? Dany, you have to listen to me." There was panic in his voice, cutting through the previous calm like a knife. "I think you're in danger. Your mom's situation is more complicated than you realize." "Complicated? What are you talking about?" My thoughts raced, the music now a haunting background to Cole's urgent message. "Just promise me you'll stay close to Jax. And don't trust anyone else." "Not yet." The static crackled, but I could feel Cole's urgency seeping through. "Where are you?" I demanded, but the line went dead, leaving only a hollow echo. "What did he say?" Jax's voice brought me back to the moment, and I could see the concern painted across his features. "He thinks we're in danger." I felt the words tumble out, heavy with foreboding. "He said not to trust anyone else." "I don't care what that guy said back there. I trust you, Dany. I'm not going anywhere." The conviction in his voice grounded me, even as new fear threatened to bubble up again. But right then, just as I felt a sliver of hope, a new figure entered the courtyard. It was a woman with a familiar grace, and as she approached, my heart dropped. The resemblance was unmistakable. A mixed concoction of dread and disbelief painted my face. "Mom," I gasped, unable to reconcile the image of the woman I've thought lost with the reality before me. My heart raced as lines of confusion and fear crossed our paths. She appeared alive, yet the same questions unprecedentedly tethered my heart to a cliff's edge. But before I could call out to her, the woman's expression changed, an unmistakable flicker of recognition mixed with urgency washing over her features. And suddenly, she turned on her heel and ran, disappearing into the labyrinthine wards of the hospital like shadows swallowing light. "Dany, wait!" Jax shouted as I sprang to my feet, the world blurring around me with each quickened beat of my heart. Could I catch her? Could she finally shed light on all the secrets wrapped around my mother's illness? My breath came sharp as I raced forward, my thoughts grappling with hope and fear, teetering toward an impending revelation. What all had remained hidden until this moment? The stakes were higher than ever as I plunged into the unknown, chasing the truth with each frantic step. The sterile fluorescent light swirled above me as I sprinted past the nurses' stations, Jax's footsteps echoing behind me. My heart pounded in my chest, an erratic rhythm of desperation pushing me forward. I barely registered the concerned faces of passing doctors and nurses as I navigated through the maze of white walls and medical jargon that had become a part of my recent existence. "Dany, slow down," Jax called out, his voice strained with a mix of worry and urgency, but I couldn't slow down. Not now. Not when my mom was so close yet so painfully out of reach. The corridor branched into a hallway that led to an outdoor patio, the remnants of autumn leaves scattered about. I caught a glimpse of the woman turning a corner, her figure flickering with familiarity. "Mom!" I cried out, my voice strangled with both hope and the raw emotion of all these years of believing I had lost her. "Wait!" Jax's hand grasped my arm, pulling me back just as I was about to step outside. "Are you sure it's really her?" His eyes bore into mine, filled with concern that contrasted with my fervor. "Of course it's her. I know it is." I shot back, my heart aching as I realized I couldn't lose her again. Not after feeling that glimmer of hope. With that, I tore free from his grip and took off again, urgency coursing through me as I stepped onto the patio. The air was thick, fragrant with flowers that seemed at odds with the chaos inside my mind. There she was, standing at the far edge. Her back was turned to me, and the sun cast a halo around her hair, which danced in the wind as if calling me home. "Mom!" I shouted again, forcing my voice past the knot in my throat. She turned slowly, and the full weight of her gaze hit me like a tidal wave, crashing over years of confusion, love, and loss. Her eyes were wild with fear, yet they were undeniably familiar. Those same deep pools that had always held stories untold. A flicker of recognition crossed her face, and I could almost see the internal struggle playing out before me. I took a step forward, my breath hitching. "Mom, it's me. Dany." "Dany," the whisper escaped her lips, laced with disbelief and yearning, and I dared to take another step. But then her expression shifted, and panic set in. You shouldn't be here. You have to go now. What are you talking about? I've been searching for you. I thought you were. I know, darling, I know. Her voice cracked, and in that moment I saw the vulnerability beneath the surface. But you don't understand. It's not safe for you. Not now. Not safe. What is happening? Why did you leave? Before she could answer, the distant sounds of commotion erupted from the hospital entrance, drawing our attention. A group of security personnel were pushing through the doors, their eyes scanning the courtyard as if hunting for someone. My stomach sank, the reality of danger merging with the confusion surrounding my mom's sudden appearance. We need to go, she urged, grabbing my arm with trembling hands. I can't let you get involved in this. It's too dangerous. No. I pulled away, my heart aching with betrayal. You can't just show up and then run away again. I deserve to know the truth. Dany, please. Her voice cut through the air, laced with desperation. For your own safety. In that moment I felt a surge of anger, my world's foundations quaking beneath the weight of her words. You can't keep running. You owe me this. I shouted, an echo of my childhood reverberating in my plea. I was no longer a helpless girl waiting for a mother's return. I was a young woman demanding answers, my spirit ignited by years of unanswered questions. She hesitated, her defenses momentarily cracking, and I saw the love buried behind all the fear. Suddenly a voice cut through our exchange, sharp and commanding. Ma'am, step away from her. The security personnel were upon us, their stern faces framed with authority, and in that instant my heart sank further than I thought it ever could. The sight of them standing between me and my mother felt like an impenetrable wall rising. Run! Get out of here! She cried. Now! I'll find you, just go. The sheer force of her command tore through me. I could see the resolve in her eyes, a promise layered beneath the chaos surrounding us, but every instinct screamed to refuse to stay and fight. Jax's presence emerged beside me, his hand on my shoulder holding me back. We need to listen to her, he urged quietly, but even his steady voice felt drowned out by the roar of emotions boiling inside me. Before I could respond, my mother's face blanched, and she turned to face the approaching guards, stepping in front of me as if to shield me from whatever came next. Stay back. You don't know what you're doing. The panic surged again, a tidal wave of fear crashing over me as her defiance ignited something dangerous in the air. Just as the guards reached for her, I lunged forward. Mom, no. And in that breathless moment, it was all too clear the love I had longed for was anchored in perilous truth, and in the face of revelations unknown, my whole world swung on the cusp of disaster. Then came a crack, loud and slicing through the tension, and in disbelief, I discovered the unthinkable as I faced the reality I had helped chase down. A plot twist so unexpected that it would unravel everything. The blast echoed through the courtyard, drowning out all sound like a tidal wave crashing against the shore. I felt the world shift beneath me, a violent tremor that stole my breath away and thrust me into an unending nightmare. Time itself hung suspended in the air, stretching into infinity as I watched my mother stagger backward, her eyes wide with shock before she crumpled to the ground, a fragile silhouette against the stark concrete. No, my voice was primal, a raw instinct born of love and desperation. Before I knew it, my feet were in motion, propelled by the sheer force of my disbelief as I dashed toward her. Jax's hand closed around my wrist, a desperate anchor trying to pull me back. Dany, wait! He shouted, fear etched across his features, but there was no waiting, no time to waste. I tore away from him and plunged into the chaos as I reached my mother's side. I could hardly process the scene, the blood pooling beneath her, the frantic calls of the security guards, and the horrified gasps from bystanders. Everything blurred into an indistinct haze, but amidst the cacophony, there was only one thought that consumed me. I couldn't lose her. Not again. Not after everything. Mom, please. Stay with me. I shook her gently, searching her eyes for a flicker of recognition, anything that hinted at the strength I had seen so many times before. But all I found were the edges of consciousness fading. Dany, she croaked, her voice barely a whisper as she attempted to reach for me, her trembling fingers brushing against my cheek. You need to be careful, they're coming for you. The truth, her words trailed off, the light in her eyes dimming. Protect. Just then the world spun, shadows creeping into my peripheral vision. I stood up, adrenaline coursing through my veins, fists clenched in defiance. This ain't over. You hear me? I yelled into the chaos, my voice breaking through the noise as a fire ignited deep within me. I will find the truth. I will save you. Jax was beside me, his presence strong and unwavering. We need to go, Dany. Now. His grip returned, firm, but there was fear now, a fear that mirrored my own. The guards were converging around us, securing the area while chaos erupted around my mother's crumpled form. No, I won't leave her. Panic surged through me as I turned back, the instinct to protect raging against the threat closing in. But Jax's voice broke through my fear, grounding me with the clarity I desperately needed. Dany, she's gone. If we don't move, they'll get us too. We can't let this be her end. My heart shattered at those words, the sense of loss weighing heavier than anything I had ever felt. Yet his grip was unwavering, guiding me away from the scene, a cruel parallel of life dragging me away from nothing but hope. I wanted to scream, to fight against the despair threatening to consume us both. Yet I knew surrendering to panic would mean losing more than just my mother today. As we sprinted back inside, the sterile hospital walls felt more imposing than ever. Our footsteps echoed eerily, the fluorescent lights flickering above, igniting a sense of urgency within me. I glanced back once, fear gnawing within me. I wanted to fight, to stay, to scream for answers, but the truth loomed like a specter over our lives, demanding a reckoning in its own sinister way. Where do we go? I gasped, heart racing as Jax led us down an unfamiliar corridor. What do we do now? We confront Cole, he said, determination etched into every line of his face. He knows something crucial we need to understand. The name hit me like a punch to the throat. Cole had been the harbinger of chaos. He knew secrets, but his motives were a riddle wrapped in shadows. I could still hear his urgent voice, warning us to be cautious, and yet I felt drawn to the promise imprinted in that urgency. But what if he's part of this? What if he's the reason my mom? I couldn't finish the thought, the emotions tightening a knot in my throat. Then we expose him, Jax insisted, pausing as we reached a doorway leading to an emergency exit. Whatever you think he is, we have to find out. He hesitated for a moment and caught my gaze, his azure eyes steady and filled with a fierce sense of purpose. Together, Dany. We're in this together, no matter what it takes. The warmth of his reassurance anchored me through the chaos, igniting a sense of solidarity that felt both terrifying and exhilarating. Together, I echoed, knowing that whatever lay ahead would test us in ways we couldn't yet comprehend. As we moved through the heavy door and into the night, the moon casting an ethereal glow over the world, I felt an unexpected calm infiltrate the storm of emotions raging inside. Amidst the chaos, I knew I was no longer alone. I had Jax. Together we could navigate through the darkness that lay ahead, armed with the truth and a reckoning that wasn't far behind. But just as we began to put distance between us and the hospital, my phone buzzed again, and I glanced down, heart racing when I saw the message. Time's running out. Meet me. I have answers. See, in that moment, I knew without a doubt this ride in the wrong car had not only led me to love, it had thrust me into a world where secrets loomed larger than life, and I was ready to face every shadow, every truth. With a fierce resolve igniting within me, I turned to Jax, feeling a surge of determination. Let us find Cole, I said, each word weighted with unyielding promise. I will reclaim what was taken from me, even if it shatters every illusion I have left. His hand found mine, our fingers lacing together as we stepped into the uncertain path ahead, two souls forging a bond beneath a sky filled not just with stars, but with the promise of healing and hope for the future. And as we moved further into the darkness, I realized something profound. No matter the challenge, true strength emerges not in the absence of fear, but in the unwavering resolve to face it head-on. Even in the depths of shadow where love blazes the brightest sometimes, it takes stepping into the storm to discover the true essence of our hearts.